Good afternoon, Trump's family. Welcome back to my channel. Have a great Wednesday, everyone, and God bless you. Let's get into the news. We are witnessing right before our very eyes what may be the single biggest political and financial scandal of our lifetimes. And it's about to get even worse. We now know why every single Democrat in Congress is pro-Ukraine and pro-war. We now know why the Democratic Party is so obsessed with Ukraine and so determined to continue to send billions upon billions of our tax dollars to their government. And the reason behind it is all about to blow the roof off of DC. You're not gonna want to miss this. Meet Sam Bankman-Fried, one of the youngest billionaires in the world. He's the founder of the crypto exchange company known as FTX. FTX came on the scene in 2019. And under Bankman-Fried's leadership, it quickly became a powerhouse in Democratic politics. FTX spent $10 million on Joe Biden's 2020 campaign, and since then, Bankman-Fried has become one of the single biggest contributors to the Democrats, second only to George Soros. According to Fortune magazine, what's more, he had promised to spend far more on Democrats moving forward, predicting in May that he'd funded Democrats with as much as $1 billion for the 2024 elections. But last week, without warning, FTX suddenly went bankrupt. As part of their planned merger with Binance, the biggest crypto exchange platform, it was discovered during due diligence that FTX had issued a bunch of its own tokens that it valued itself and sold them to one of their biggest shareholders to artificially prop up their market value and make them appear as if they were liquid enough to be an exchange outlet for crypto. In other words, basically FTX appeared to have fabricated equity, literally created counterfeit money to cook the books to make FTX look far more solvent than it actually was. Binance announced that they were backing out of the merger deal. Investors got nervous and made a run on their investments, and FTX was forced to admit they had no money to pay investors back. As Bloomberg is reporting, Bankman-Fried's net worth has imploded in a single day. He lost 94% of his $16 billion net worth. It's one of the biggest billionaire single-day collapses ever witnessed. Now, of course, he's gonna have to file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. And he's also now under investigation by both the Department of Justice and the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. Now, of course, all of this would be bad enough in of itself. I mean, we have to remember this is a public figure. This guy Bankman-Fried, he was touted as like the next JP Morgan by that guy Cramer over at CNBC, Cram or whatever his name is. They drooled over the sky. We're now in finding out that he had family ties to the World Economic Forum. His aunt Linda Fried, an epidemiologist, is a key player in the WTF. But now, as investigators are putting together the pieces and digging through the wreckage of FTX as implosion, we're learning that this might have actually been the single biggest money laundering operation ever. As it turns out, we're finding out more and more that FTX appears to be nothing more than a slush fund for Democrat politicians. An ancillary, lately shocking revelations emerged from the investigation into FTX. It turns out that FTX had actually, quote, partnered with Ukraine to process donations to their war efforts, just days after Biden pledged billions of American tax dollars to the war-torn nation. Back in March of this year, the cryptocurrency news site CoinDesk reported that Ukraine had partnered with FTX and that FTX was, quote, converting crypto contributions to Ukraine's war effort into fiat for deposit. The National Bank of Ukraine, meaning that FTX was converting cryptocurrency into Ukrainian currency, which is the hryvnia. According to Fox News, the partnership involved the Ukrainian Ministry of Digital Transformation FTX and a Ukrainian web company called Everstake. A tweet from March 8 of this year from Everstake confirms their relationship with FTX. The Post Millennials reporting that on March 16, just 2 days after the Ukraine FTX partnership was announced, Biden gave an additional $800 million to Ukraine, and of course, as of this month, that has accumulated to an astonishing and frankly unprecedented $60 billion of aid to Ukraine. And so now, we're the revelation of the so-called partnership between FTX and the Ukrainian government, the very government that received billions upon billions of American taxpayer funds. The question that is arising is obvious. How much of those taxpayer funds ended up funneled back into FTX, which, of course, turned around and funneled tens of millions of dollars into Democrat coffers? Here's a nice chart of what's possibly being uncovered here. You got Fried funneling money into the coffers of the Democrats to the tune of tens of millions. That's indisputable. You got Democrats funneling money, mass billions, to Ukraine, indisputable. Then you have Ukrainian officials funneling money to FTX in their so-called partnership indisputable, and then FTX funnels that money right back into the Democrat coffers indisputable. So it appears that we have a mass money laundering scheme where taxpayer funds, which are supposedly paying for weapons and aid and like, are being rerouted and ultimately put back into Democrat politicians' pocket. This is a scandal of magnanimous proportions. Of course, the legacy media is going to do everything they possibly can to cover it up. Nothing to see here. Oh, no, of course not. It benefits the Democrats and therefore it's good, because the Democrats are good. They're the only ones keeping our democracy alive. That's the frame for the media right now. So it's the media won't be any help here. But this is where the new Elon Musk patriot Twitter is going to shine. So obviously, we're going to be keeping a very close eye on how things develop here. But there's no question in the fall of FTX. The Democrats just lost their number 2 donor, but in the fallout from its implosion, the Democrats may end up losing a lot more. And I have a wonderful beverage right here celebrating the House of Representatives going Trump Republican. It is official, but it is official GOP has the 218. I'm looking at it right now. The 218 in the House. You need to 18 to win the House of Representatives that are going to impeach Joe Biden, Hunter, just like Bankman-Fried. Just like a lot of wonderful Democratic donors engaged in very shady, corrupt, illegal practices. Graft, just like in Tammany Hall, is still illegal. It's still against the law. So Sam Bankman-Fried with FTX. I mean, that's huge. They're not going to have $1 billion. For 2024. He wanted to give $1 billion to Democrats, and they're going to investigate Hunter endlessly. Don't give up on Kevin McCarthy right away. When people say, well, nothing's ever gonna happen. You have to understand, ladies and gentlemen, this is huge. I know we had to deal with Kari Lake and Blake Masters and Adam Laxalt to disappointing results here and there. They will all be back. They'll be back stronger than ever. And they'll run again. Or they're going to fight and do their best to rectify any injustices. But again, ladies and gentlemen, Republicans are Trump. Republicans have to engage in the same democracy. They have to do the same things as Democrats. If the leveling the playing field isn't level, then you level the playing field, do the same thing as your opponent. It's not difficult. No more complaining. No more all this is unfair. It's not, of course, it's not fair. That's the way the other side likes it. Of course, there's corruption. Of course there are coincidences and, bizarre occurrences that always benefit them. Okay. So you have to, if that's democracy, then embrace democracy. The journalists at The Federalist and other publications have stated, look, whether it's a ground game, quote, unquote, or whatever you want to call it, you have to adapt to the democracy that exists. So you do democracy just like they do democracy. If that doesn't make sense. And if I'm speaking in roundabout terms, so be it. Push the early vote and do what Democrats do legally. Not pushing for anything illegal legally, but this is huge. They're going to impeach Joe Biden. Why is that important? And do not say in the comments are never going to happen. We won. We won the House of Representatives. That's all you need. This is huge because they have investigated Trump from the House of Representatives, all those like regional investigations with Democrats in New York, Democrats in Georgia. Democrats at the Department of Justice, they leveled the House of Representatives primarily at Trump. The January committee will be disbanded. Hit subscribe to this channel because I'm going to explain why this is so good. So amazing. And why you should be partying tonight in your home safely and just you should be happy. The committees that they have against Trump are going to be all disbanded. Whether it has to do with his tax returns or January, they found nothing on Trump. They never indicted Trump. Read the Daily Mail. This is for the morally superior liberal Democrats who say, oh my God, blasphemy, heresy. What is he talking about? Oh my God, conspiratorial nonsense. Read the Daily Mail. Read the New York Post, all the reporting in journalism, and they broke the story. Why do you think Twitter, when it was managed by liberal Democrats who want to stifle debate, discussion, discourse, dialogue, because, like, the actual truth about Democrats hurts them. The actual truth, their own emails, whether it was when they cheated Bernie Sanders, They said it was a plot by another country to inform you that Bernie was cheated or Hunter's emails. Why do you think the truth about Democrats hurts them? And why do you think they have to lie about Trump? Don't ask anyone. But if you ask the liberal Democrat why they despise Trump, it'll be, oh, he's taught he's a tyrant. He's this, he's that. They will never actually point to something he did. That was despicable. What did he do? We had record low unemployment with record low in poverty under Trump at 2019. And then what they'll do is they'll make grandiose claims he ignored you know what, in 2020. No, he didn't. And Democratic states had the worst situation, let's just say, and then they take their economies. And the governors gleefully tanked their economy. Just the political angle was that the political motivation was to get Trump out of office, and it worked. Then they ignored inflation. Now we have inflation 8 to 9%. They say 7.7 or so. It's nonsense. It's much more than 8 to 9% for energy, food and rent, what you need to live. Okay, we have the XFTX implosion, where you have a teachers' union and Canada lost $95 million. And that's just, we don't even know all the unions and all the philanthropic organizations that have lost money just like Bernie Madoff. Okay, if he's a wall, he's a Democrat, the Southern District of New York, and, he's nothing, nothing's ever gonna happen. And at a certain point, you're gonna lose the House, which they did, you're gonna get impeached, which they will. I mean, the pendulum is swinging, Trump's gonna run again. Good luck trying to indict Trump after they've indicted Hunter under charges that aren't even close to what he actually did. Those emails show from the Daily Mail, the New York Post, the Federalist, other publications, that he engaged in graft and potential bribery schemes. These are serious felonies. And any attorney can look at those emails and say, oh, okay, here, if those emails were Trump's emails, liberal attorneys in New York and prosecutors would say, oh my God, this is a treasure trove of information. Let's indict Trump and everyone around him. But that's not the way things work. They will start working like that. Now, Marjorie Taylor Greene is against anyone running against Kevin McCarthy. I actually agree with her. I think Andy Biggs would be great, or Jim Jordan, but he did. If you win by a tiny amount in the House, you don't want defectors or the possibility that Democrats influence, never, or blue state Republicans. So you don't want that. Okay. And so if you win the House, well, if the Trump Republicans win the House by 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 votes, then you don't want a situation where you might not get what, a bill or an impeachment that you want. You might not get if McCarthy has a serious challenge, and he doesn't win and people don't agree on Andy Biggs or someone else. There is a slight possibility that Liz Cheney could be Speaker. So I don't even think how that would be. I don't even know how that would be possible. But that's what they're saying in the House of Representatives. It's a vote tomorrow. Kevin McCarthy will get it, and then he'll get the votes to win Speaker of the House. When it's all said and done, Republicans will have the House of Representatives. This is the prize. It was not the Senate that they barely got, and Herschel Walker will win against Warnock. Okay. Republicans in Arizona and Republicans in Nevada got their act together, got Lombardo and Senate. Mitch McConnell did not fund Laxalt, and he did not fund Blake Masters. But Republicans in Arizona have not gotten their act together, really. And you have to the right like Wendy Rogers and Carrie Lake. And those people still have to contend with officials who run things that are never Trump Republicans that even have political action committees. So you clean house eventually. And if you want to, these states are content with losing. They don't mind having Sinema and Kelly. They don't mind having more conservative Democrats. And that has to change. And Kelly's not really concerned with Sinema, maybe here and there, but they vote party line. So they're content with losing. The interesting thing about Liz Cheney, somebody should point out that she voted alongside Trump 92% of the time. So how on earth is she an actual opponent of Trump? It's all marketing. She's not an up, neither is Kinzinger. He voted 90+% of the time. She doesn't disagree with Trump on policies. She just wants never-ending wars and military interventions in counterinsurgency conflict like Dick Cheney. Okay. So you have these people, you have Liz Cheney and her father Dick Cheney, you have Hunter and Joe. These are people engaged in either miserably failed foreign policy that alters the lives of millions upon millions of Americans, and ends the lives of untold people around the world. And forces us to engage in these counterinsurgency conflicts where we send men and women to and they make the ultimate sacrifice for what purpose? For because Liz Cheney's, because Dick Cheney said there was WMD, and that the liberals who opposed Bush, Cheney and Rumsfeld are the most, oftentimes almost always, the most duplicitous and disingenuous because they only cared because of the air. If President Obama or Biden did the same thing in President Obama destroying Libya, in a failed NATO intervention, there you go. They didn't care. They don't care at all. If it's an art, you can get away with anything. What's taking place in the southern geographic region of our country is terrible now. More atrocities, more like, horrific situations, than what took place under Trump, but Democrats don't care. You afflict 40-50 people losing their lives in a truck? This was last year, like 6 months ago. Where was AOC condemning Biden? But these, you have to understand, Democrats are like, they're very good at acting. They're very good at pontificating and preaching. They're basically the liberal version of television at televangelists, and it works. They think Trump is the embodiment of evil and corruption. They can't find one felony. You can find numerous felonies with Hunter. Read the emails. CBS News, $150 million in suspicious financial transactions. Are you kidding me? Could you imagine if Trump had that? So we won the House of Representatives? I say we. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. But I like Trump. I support Trump Republicans. I want a limited, non-interventionist foreign policy that opposes counterinsurgency conflict, that is infinitely more important than the climate, than the crisis associated with the climate, for a number of reasons I could go into. Okay. Also, if you want to talk about the Earth and the fate of the planet, there is an issue with nuclear confrontation that could end the planet in 2 seconds. But again, Democrats don't care about that. That's not like esoteric, and you can't pontificate with the nuclear confrontation that we have now in Europe because of Democratic foreign policy, directly because of Biden's foreign policy, 100% because of mashed potato brains in his bumbling, stumbling band of imbeciles. Okay. And it was a May 1, 2021 withdrawal. Okay. The Doha Agreement called for a May 1 withdrawal, but you'd have to know something about politics. And Biden completely botched that. So McCarthy is, at the end of the day, he's a political creature. He's not going to just ignore exactly why people want the House. People want that. Republicans want the House because of Trump. And they lost the Senate because of Mitch McConnell. Trump isn't even in politics technically until tomorrow. You can't blame Trump. He's not in charge of funding candidates. Mitch McConnell is in the Republican Party. They're involved in funding candidates. You can't blame Trump. And you can't blame Trump for Liz Cheney or McCain, or Richard Burr. Oh, Paul Ryan investigating a Republican president. How many Democrats are investigating Hunter? How about 0? How many Democrats have a special counsel against Biden? How about 0? So imagine, when was the last time a political party went after its own president? It's never happened. I mean, it barely happened with Watergate, and he decided to leave. He didn't even get impeached. He resigned Nixon. So it's a huge day. Endless investigations of Hunter, now FTX, a whole bunch of issues with strengthening the border, all of that. And technically, if you want to look at the political side, it's actually good for Republicans long term. The market is going to tank, unfortunately. The economy is going to continue to collapse. Unfortunately, 200 million barrels of strategic petroleum reserves, he can't tap that anymore. Oil is going to continue to go up. It's going up. And once you have FTX and other two buckles, you will have hedge funds. That's what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. If you're up for it, I'm gonna get back to work.